35. This is also to introduce to you a new program here on Peace 90.5, which will be very, very interesting. And not only interesting, but it's going to be very, very educative. Well, it is a great pleasure to welcome you to a brand new program, a program designed to bring climate change, inclusion, disability rights, and community resilience closer to you. This is Inclusive Climate Action. My name is Vina Adams, and I will be your host throughout this exciting 10 episodes journey. Today is particularly special because this is our maiden edition, and we are delighted to begin this important conversation with you. Well, for a start, climate change is no longer something we only hear about in international conferences or on television. We see and feel its effects around us: rising temperatures, changing rainfall patterns, flooding, erosion, drought, environmental degradation, and other changes affecting our communities and livelihood. Well, but here is an important question. Does climate change affect everyone in the same way? Well, I know the answer to many will be no. Some people and communities are more vulnerable than others, and among those who are often disproportionately affected are persons with disabilities. They may face additional barriers when there are floods, extreme weather conditions, emergencies, or disasters, particularly when climate information, evacuation plans, emergency shelters, and response systems are not accessible to them. And that is why exactly we're here on Peace 90.5 with the program Inclusive Climate Action. The program, remember, is brought to you by the Equal Basis Development Initiative, EBDI, with support from the Disability Rights Fund, DRF, under the project. Now, driving inclusive climate policy and resilience, advancing global disability summit commitment in Plateau State. So, wherever you are listening to me from today, in Jos, Bukuru, Barkiladi, Riom, Bassa, Pangshin, Shandam, Kaduna, EB, and any other part of the country you're listening to me, this is Inclusive Climate Action, and today we begin with the very foundation, understanding climate change and why inclusion matters. Our guest in the studio is not a new person, is not a new name. I'm talking about Mrs. Patricia N. Palm, the Executive Director of the Equal Basis Development Initiative, EBDI. Good afternoon and welcome.
Thank you so much, sir, for this opportunity.
Yeah. We also have with us Mr. Bitrus Sauta. I hope I got the name right.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay. The Technical Project Officer with the Equal Basis Development Initiative, EBDI, and part of the team working on the project titled Driving Inclusive Climate Policy and Resilience, Advancing Global Disability Summit Commitment in Plateau State, with support from the Disability Rights Fund. So let's start. This program is a new program, and I think it's dear to you both. So let's start. And to both of you, let me say once again, you are welcome.
Thank you, sir.
So let me start. We hear the word climate change almost every day for the ordinary listener, the farmer, trader, student, parent, or persons living in our communities. What exactly does climate change mean?
Thank you so much, sir, for this question. Maybe before I will respond, I will want to say like a summary of what Equal Basis Development Initiative is.
Okay, yes, please go ahead.
Equal Basis Development Initiative is a disability-led non-profit and non-political organization committed to the promoting of the rights, dignity, and inclusion of persons with disabilities in Nigeria. Our intervention focuses on climate justice, which we are talking on now, disability inclusion, human rights, good governance, peace building, inclusive education, economic empowerment, health, and humanitarian response. So to go back to your question, we know that climate change is a global issue, also a national issue, also a local issue, because it affects everybody and it also impact more on persons with disabilities. So the reason why, we're having this project is because we want to ensure that persons with disabilities are meaningfully included in climate change policies, are also included in disaster risk reduction, also in the area of emergency preparedness and resilient building efforts across Plateau State. And why is it important? Is because climate change affects persons with disability more. And in your introduction, you said issues of climate change, how does it impact? It impact differently. The way it will impact a non-disabled person is different from the way it will impact a non-disabled. The way it will impact a woman is also different, from the way it will impact a woman with disability. So because our vulnerability amplify the effects of climate change. So that is why this project is also important for persons with disability to be part of climate change discourse and to be part of good governance or climate governance on the plateau. So let me stop for now.
Okay, Mr. Sauta, from your technical and project perspective, what are some of the changes we should be paying attention to? For example, changes in rainfall, temperature, flooding, drought, or the environment. What are we already seeing around us as this project is concerned and tend to address?
Okay, just like Madam has emphasized, issue of climate change, we've been hearing it 1,000 miles away, but I stand bold to tell us that it's already here. We are already in it. You can check the rain pattern in Plateau, the weather. It's raining now, and people are still sweating. It's unlike that before. And then by August, we should have like a daily rainfall. But these days, you find out that the rain keep fluctuating. When it comes heavily, and when it ceases for a certain period of time. Though we used to know about the August break of 1 week, something. But these days, those breaks are no longer there. You can't actually envisage, even with the projection of NIMET, you find out that it's so difficult to ascertain. But though it gives us guide, and it makes us prepared in anticipation of what will happen the next day, the next 2 hours or thereabout. But looking at it, it's here, and we have to live with it, and we have to conscientize, sensitize people to also prepare to live with it so that it will mitigate this effect.
Okay, I think there's something about what Madam said earlier, talking about policy involving persons with disabilities in policy making, right? So I want to know why disability inclusion. Why does it matter? Because in some cases, you discover that there are people who, the policy makers, who make policies for people, and they don't need to be there. But why does this actually matter? So let's bring the conversation directly to the issue of disability inclusion.
Okay, thank you, sir. The overall goal of this project and why inclusion matters is because to institutionalize disability inclusion in climate change policy, in disaster preparedness and climate action programming in Plateau State is key, because policy drives development, and then policy brings development. Policy is a framework that promote good governance. So when there's a policy on the issue of climate issues, and then the inputs, and then the concern, and then the needs of persons with disability does not shape that policy, you see that is where exclusion will amplify the vulnerability of persons with disability. So that is why in climate action or in climate policy, persons with disability should be part of it, should form the processes from the beginning of designing that policy. They should capture their needs. They should capture their vulnerability. If you don't capture them in policy, how do you help them? So you discover that their vulnerability will continue to amplify, and intervention will not meet them in the long run because they are excluded from the processes. So So that's why disability inclusion in climate policy is key, that persons with disability are part of the process, are part of the table when it comes to decision making in those in climate policy.
Okay, this brings us to the word inclusion in this whole conversation. When we say inclusive climate action, what exactly are we talking about? What should inclusion look like in practical terms, apart from being involved in the policy making?
Okay, so inclusion is just is an English word. What does inclusion mean? That means you are part of the process. Persons with disability are part of the process. Persons with disability are captured. Okay, for example, now, when government is bringing an intervention, for example, we know that when it comes to flooding, you see issue of camps, temporal camps. Now, those temporal camps, camps, if government set it because they want to evacuate people, and if persons with disability are not expected to be part of that camp, you discover that you have a camp that there's no access. In terms, you see high-rising structures, because most of these structures are temporal. But you should know that you expect persons with disability that are part of the community that will come to seek for shelter. How accessible is that? If you make maybe water facility, water sanitation and hygiene in terms of toilet facility, how wide is the door? How accessible? Like me, I'm in a wheelchair. Can I access, that restroom? Can I access it easily? And when it comes to flooding, most of these things are emergency cases.
Yeah.
But in that temporal shelter, in intervention, do you have wheelchairs? Because some you leave your home hurriedly, unexpected because of in an emergency case.
Yeah.
But what kind of facilities do you have? What in terms of wheelchair, in terms of in terms of food, in terms of the wash facility? How accessible is that? So that's what we're talking about. That whatever you talk about issues of climate change, climate action, persons with disability should be part of it in terms of intervention, in terms of provision, because at the end of the day, you discover that persons with disability will likely not recover in the long run because they are not part of that policy, they are not part of government action plan in terms of budgeting too. So that's why we say when you talk about inclusion, is everybody should be part of it. Don't forget that persons with disability are part of community, are also are vulnerable to issues of climate change.
Thank you very much. Mr. Samata, so why is it important for us to even specifically talk about persons with disabilities when we are discussing climate change?
Okay. Madam has delved so deep into it, but let me speak to...
From the technical part.
From the technical part, but to the layman understanding. When we talk about inclusiveness or inclusivity in what we do, first and foremost, we're all human beings. We have nerves, we have bones, we have cells running in our body. Either you are disabled or you are able. And then just like the fathers of faith will say, except you are dead, you are still under creation. You might be able today, and tomorrow something must have happened, either disaster or whatever, and you turn to the other side. So if this is not captured, and eventually you find yourself in the other side, what becomes of you? Okay, there are people that were born like that, some were not born like that. They, in the course of nature, they find themselves. And then if these things are not being factored into it, we run into challenges. And these are the challenges we want to streamline so that we bring it to the barest minimum so that everybody will be carried along. Now, it will interest you, we are at the State Secretariat, built by J.D. Gonwok so many years ago. The structure is still standing, very quality structure. But at that point in time, this issue of disability inclusion and whatever has not been factored into it. So now,
so there was no access.
There was no access. So today, for person living with disability to access that secretariat, how beautiful it is a challenge. There's no ramp, and then people that are visually impaired, how do they find their way? For the deaf, how does he know that this is a sign so that he will get himself out of the challenges. Now, I will tell you, I will bring a similar example so that we understand the picture. Just on Friday, we are at the University of Jos to discuss with some of our partners, our technical partners, who are supporting us in the policy drafting and action plan. And we are at the Faculty of Law.
Yes.
I was so excited when we get to before we could get to that place. I'm also a Jos side. I was thinking, okay, how do we maneuver to that place? Now, structures, in those days, the Bauchi Road campus are... but here in permanent side, we have upstairs staircases. But graciously, when we went there was a ramp. You can see how happy I was. It was seamless getting to the offices up, and we had our meeting. And then, at that point in time, anybody can come that place and access. And we're told that special students were also factored into it. This is what is happening now. So if that was not in existence, going forward now, let's include them so that the visual impaired will tell you that, okay, when designing, consider this. In the last training we had, somebody was saying that when you look at this, and one person that is visually impaired, he said, what are we looking at for? You know, generally the perception, we didn't factor it when the speaker was passing the message, and he said, when you look at this, not minding that somebody is there that does not have sight. So, but when we talk about inclusion, now you think about it. Okay, now you don't say when you look at it, you say the blue or the staircase. That it carries him along, and then he doesn't feel neglected. He's part of it. He makes his input, and even during the action, he also suggests and also acts.
That's interesting. Well, I want us to clarify something as we move, because this is going to be a very interesting journey from now till the 10 episodes. So it's very important to clarify this, because sometimes when we talk about persons with disabilities, society just tend to see them mainly as people who need assistance. Right? And then, but should persons with disabilities simply be beneficiaries of climate programs, or should they also be involved in designing and making decisions about those programs, not as far as this project is concerned, but subsequently?
As a technical person, I disagree with the first phrase. I want to stand my feet. I stand bold to tell you that no, they should be part of it. They are part of it. They are just part of it. Not as a beneficiary, as a just a mere kind of something. Okay, like the example I give. When the Faculty of Law is built, I'm sure they take cognizance of people on wheelchair. And also, I'm not too sure about other cluster of the disability. But at least this is a headway. So by the time we're going to build another faculty, and we'll also factor into this, these people will come there and perform like normal human being. In fact, who does not need help? When you look at somebody and you feel this is the person that needs help, we the so-called able people, don't we need help?
We do.
We do. And then in as much as we need help, these people also need help. But if they are factored into it, it's a win-win situation. We all help each other at the beginning, and we run together to safety.
Well, that's interesting. You want to add something to that?
Yes, just to add, we don't want to be passive members of the society. No, but we want our inputs. We want our expertise to be tapped. Because if you don't interact with me, because I know where it pinches me, I should be able to guide you on how you should be able to support. And then, you know, we have gone past charity model. Now it is right-based approach. So persons with disability are also human. They have the right, you know, to be to the table. You can't shave in my absence. So you can't create, you know, a policy for me without me. So that's why we have a phrase that say, nothing for us without us. And then there's something we say concerning disability. If it has not reached you, it has not passed you. So now when you make it inclusive, you know, like our motto, we say inclusion benefits all. Now when you make it an inclusive policy, you see that you don't you have enriched, you have added value to that policy. Nobody will protest that you have excluded him. So that's why persons with disability should be part of, you know, climate policy and climate action.
Now, as a woman, there's this other challenge that I know that persons with disabilities are facing a lot of challenge And as a woman, I know that even those who are termed to be able, as a woman, you are also limited in certain things.
Yeah.
So, as in, how is that relating to the disability community as far as the female gender is concerned? Because I want to know what happens when persons with disabilities are excluded from climate policy discussions and disaster preparedness planning. And what can we lose as a society when their voices are missing, especially the women?
What the society will lose value addition to that policy. Because as we agree from the beginning, these issues of climate issue affect us differently, affect women with disabilities differently. And you also ask the question, like, okay, now, where is the place of women with disabilities when it comes to even the women agenda? You discover that women with disabilities voice is either invincible or there is no place at all. I will also cast back to, the push, for the women agenda. How many women with disabilities voice will you hear? How many of them are carried along? Our faces is silence, practically invincible. Our voices are not heard. Why? This is the issue of exclusion that different demography are facing. And that is why this issue, that is why this project is also to amplify our voices as persons with disability vis-a-vis women with disability, that these issues also affect us. But when it comes to policy, when it comes to action plan, women with disabilities voices are not heard. Even, for example, now, if you say you want to check the issue of budgeting now, is it disaggregated by disability? Even if it's disaggregated by gender, what about women with disability? Are they captured? They are not captured. So this is where you see issues of exclusion, either as person with disability or vis-a-vis women with disability, is so amplified, in this part of the world. That is why this project now is also trying to amplify our voices, that we should be part of the table, we should be part of decision making, because we can add value. Because you can't talk on our behalf, because we bear the brunt. We know where the shoe pinches us. Exactly.
Mr. Sauta, in conclusion, because we're rounding up now, what do we expect to achieve at the end of this project as a technical person?
Yeah, in the prelude, Madam mentioned advancing the global summit affirmation, commitment. And then, in summary, that affirmation or that commitment is just, let's be inclusive. Let's give a space for input, not just coming in as taking handout. No.
Okay.
In the process of design, let's be part of it. In the process of implementation, let's be part of it. So that by the time the result keeps coming out, we're also part of it. As simple as that. And then when we get it done, I'm telling you, we're going to stem down a lot of crises, a lot of challenges, and a lot of unforeseen circumstances. Graciously for the state, under the Ministry of Environment and Climate, we had climate policy on ground, and we have the People's Parliament of Climate Assembly on ground. So this is an edge to other states. For us, we started the journey, but at what level is this inclusion? We want to expand it so that we shrink the space of the exclusion.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, I'm very sure this is going to be a very interesting program. So you should also try as much as possible to prepare your time. By next week, we're going to be having this same program, same station, from exactly 2:30 to 3. Unfortunately, time is not on our side. This is the most we can have. But in your final words.
Okay, we want to use this opportunity to appreciate our funders, Disability Rights Fund, for supporting this project.
Thank you very much. Well, I want to sincerely thank our guest, Mrs. Patricia Pam, Executive Director of the Equal Basis Development Initiative, and Mr. Beatrice Sauter, the Technical Project Officer with EBDI, for sharing their knowledge and insight with us today. And to you, our darling listener, thank you so much for being part of the show. Let's do this again next week, and let's all be inclusive. From me, I work alongside Friday Jonathan, who is our studio manager. Titus Babale is the engineer. I am Vina Adams. Let's do this.